Monday night in Oklahoma City, the Florida State Seminoles softball program stands just one win away from playing for a national championship. Noles247's Brett Nevitt has been in OKC since the Noles arrived. And Brett, before we get into the softball, I got to ask, what is a drive from Tallahassee, Florida to Oklahoma City like?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's a lot of just nothing, I would say. A lot of where you're just driving and there's really no other cars and no gas stations or anything for a while. So it can get a little boring, but they're on a lot of podcasts. I did 8 hours the first day, 6 hours the second day, so it wasn't that bad. But yeah, just a lot of nothing really, to be honest.
Was 11 used to say, "I'll tip my cap to you, my friend." That's impressive stuff, and impressive stuff is exactly what Florida State had in that opening game. Oklahoma State, of course, a team that took 2 of 3 from the Noles in Stillwater earlier this season, and Florida State, honestly, for a good chunk of it, just seemed like they were playing a different sport. Every time Oklahoma State got some momentum, Florida State was able to snuff it out. You were there, you saw your own 2 eyes. Just how impressive was that performance?
Yeah, I think Oklahoma State's head coach, Kenny Gajewski, after the game even said that Florida State made them look like a JV team at some times. And it just felt like FSU was the more composed team, the team that made all the timely plays. And this whole postseason, it seems like they've been able to just control the swings of the games. And anytime there's a big moment, it seems like they're the ones that come up with it. I think in that Oklahoma State game, right after the rain delay in the middle of the game, they had 2 rain delays in that game. And after the second one, Janai Kerr makes that play to Devin at second base. That felt like a big game changing play right there. And they just make plays that it feels like it takes the life out of other teams, and they just capitalize on the big moments, and they play together, and it's really fun to watch.
Yeah, this was a team, we've talked about Mississippi State from last year ad nauseum, but it really does seem like there's a different mentality, a different mindset to this year's team. Coach Lonnie Alameda even talked about, they're not content with winning now. They're not going to ride the highs and lows, and you can certainly see that translate to the play on the field. And a place you could certainly see it is Kat Sandercock. I mean, of course, always been a competitor, always been tough, but you mentioned it, that's a long rain delay in Oklahoma City. That was a long delay that she had in that regional final against South Carolina. You know what it's like to be in these games, sit through these rain delays. Just what does it say about what a competitor she is that none of that seems to faze her at all?
Yeah, I think Kat's talked about it, and a lot of them have talked about it throughout the postseason, just having the mentality of so what, who cares after last year. Just, things aren't always in their control, and they just do the things right that they can control. And, Kat just fills up the strike zone. I think she just uses all 4 quadrants of the strike zone, moves it around, changes speeds, and just keeps hitters off balance all the time. And, against Washington, hit the ball well, a good bit against Kat, but it just went right at her. Fielders a lot of the time, and she lets her defense makes plays, and she's a good leader. And you see her kind of command the field when she's out there. And Lonnie talks about how big that is, and just her presence on the field, and the ability to control the game and control the swings of the games, like I talked about. She just does a really good job of, after FSU scores, she goes out there and she puts up a 0 as fast as possible. It seems like every time. I think 13 out of the 15 times FSU scored a run this year, I think the next inning they've put up a 0. I think that's a really big deal, and Kat's a big part of that.
For those who don't know, in our business, there is one big rule in the press box, and is that you don't cheer. You don't try to show any emotion. You try to be as neutral as possible. What was the press box like when Josie Muffley doubled up that play to end Washington on Saturday night?
Yeah, honestly, the press box was completely filled. I didn't really have a seat for that Oklahoma game, the game before Florida State. It cleared out pretty good after. There's not much, I don't think there's any media there for Washington, and I'm the only present media here for Florida State right now, so wasn't too many people in there, but there were a lot of audible gasps. I kind of had to contain myself. I usually am very good at not getting excited.
But how do you not, right?
I had a perfect view on that, kind of just right in line with the batter, the direct angle to Josie. And when the ball left the bat, I thought it was destined for left field to at least tie the game and maybe at least get 1 run and maybe get in the left center gap and tie the game. And she just perfectly timed it. Couldn't have been any better. the athleticism and then the just awareness to get the ball to Devin, and Devin did a good job getting her attention there too. It doesn't get any better than that play. That was one of the more exciting plays that I've seen from the time I've been covering Florida State and any sport. That was Cat's perfect game, I think, in the regional, and that play will be two things I'll probably remember for forever, I think.
All right, so full disclosure, we are recording this before that losers bracket game. We don't know exactly who Florida State is going to be facing yet on Monday night, but regardless of who it is, Brett, just mindset-wise, mentality-wise, what do you see as the real key for Florida State to lock this thing down, not make this go to a fourth game, and hopefully be playing for a national championship come Wednesday?
Yeah, I think just sticking with the same mentality they've had and just playing loose and having fun and playing as a team and playing fundamental softball. I think they made a couple mistakes there, especially in the base path against Washington, but overall they still played a pretty clean game, I thought. I know some people were upset about Mudge's throw to second, but I thought it was fine keeping the tying run at first in the sixth. They just have to keep making timely plays, control the swings of the game, and play fundamental softball and play Florida State softball, because obviously that's working out for them so far. And, I think if they just keep doing that, it will carry them into the championship final.
Finally, Brett, of course, I couldn't get you out of here without asking you a baseball question. Brett Nevitt, of course, the co-host of the Sunday Golds podcast with the Osceolas, Aria Masudi. This has been a huge week for Link Jarrett and company in the portal. Of course, no regional. That stinks, but they've gotten right back to work. They've gotten some local products. They've shored up the outfield. Just what can you tell us about who's come and committed to Florida State over the last 7 days, Brett?
Yeah, they've taken advantage of having this week off, not having any games, not having regional. Obviously, they would like to be playing this weekend, but you're not, and they took advantage of that. I was in office on Wednesday before I started my drive out here, and it was frantic in their offices in a good way. They seemed just very determined to get some guys in here to fix, the issues from this year and get the job done and get it done quick. Drew Farrow from UCF, who's also from Florida State University High, I think is the right way to say it. It always confuses me, but athletic middle infielder, 15 homers, I believe, last year, set 15 or 16, set the UCF record. Pop from both sides of the plate, switch hitter. As I said, athletic. I know he played quarterback at Florida High too. So just a guy that can do a lot of things well, and more so than anything, he's going to hit the long ball, especially at Hauser. Alex Lodice at UNF had the best freshman year of any UNF player ever. Jacksonville kid originally as well, I believe from Bartram Trail High School. I think he also had 15 or 16 homers this year. 302 average. He'll play shorter second too. So both those guys are going to be up the middle of the infield and share that up for Florida State. And the defensive fielding percentage for both those guys wasn't too great last year, but I think they're freshmen. They're playing 55 plus games for the first time in their career. I think they're better fielders than their fielding percentage says. But just need to see how those guys look when they get in. Also, Max Williams from Jacksonville, originally out of Alabama, an outfielder with some left-handed juice that adds, another guy out there, some more depth. And the bat should really play with the right field fence and Hauser and the left-handed power. I saw a video of him last night hitting a really long home run in summer ball, so that was good to see. And then lefty Jacob Marlowe from UCF, I think he had a 5.6 ERA this year in 60 innings. I know the ERA doesn't sound too pretty, but I think a lot of that just came from one outing against Eastern Carolina. I think he gave up like 7 runs in 1 inning, but he's going to fill up the strike zone, throw a lot of changeups. Had a really good outing against Florida State. I think 7 innings, 1 earned run. Just turned over the changeup again and again and again. And I think that's something that Florida State didn't have this year. They didn't have a left-handed pitcher that really had a plus changeup, and something they went to often. So it's just something that adds to the staff. He's going to throw strikes. He can throw innings, can start if you need him to. So just the beginning of adding to the pitching depth. I think they'll be looking to add a lot more pitchers from the portal, and then probably a catcher, I think, and probably stay put outside of that. But they will do some, do a lot of work on the pitching staff, I think.
Well, Brett, here's hoping that we'll be joining you out there in Oklahoma City later this week. Brett Nevitt of Noles247. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Ryan.